But to start the show, we'll have a chat to Dom about himself. Dom, hello, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you going, Stephen?
Yeah, very good. Nice to see you here in the studios. I saw you the other month at the South Morang Farmers Market where you were singing a great variety of songs and some lovely piano playing, so I thought it'd be great to have you on the show. So tell us, where do you normally perform, Dom?
Currently, I'm doing some performances at markets, like the South Morang Market. I've only started that sort of since September this year, or maybe the month before. Yep, but somewhere around there, towards the end of winter, start of spring. But yeah, I've been also performing live on Twitch during the whole pandemic. And yeah, but before that, I was sort of doing some weddings and some restaurant gigs here and there. So yeah, getting back into that now. So
And you're a local lad, I believe.
yes, yep, pretty not too far from here. So yeah.
Our catchment area is Whittlesea, Nillumbrook and Banyule.
Yep.
So you're definitely in that area, aren't you?
Yep.
Now, you're going to play a few songs for us tonight, and they're mainly instrumentals. The first one, Hopeful. Can you tell us a bit about this one?
Yep, so this was in my debut album. I'm a classically trained pianist from about 2010, and then during, again, a lot of sort of isolation during, 2020, 2021, I decided to start composing my own music, and Hopeful is part of my debut album. It was, I think, track number 7. I'm pretty sure it's track number 7 on the CD out of 10. And it was sort of, I guess, just feeling a little bit of hope during those times, which I'm sure everybody felt at some time.
And you're also going to play a track called Time to Soar.
Yep. So yeah, I've got Hopeful and Time to Soar. Time to Soar was my 10th and last sort of release on the CD on the debut album, and Time to Soar is more of about sort of soaring from the classical music genre, which I sort of almost felt a little bit trapped in after doing that for 12 years, 11, 12 years. And just trying to, I guess, soar into other genres and other aspects or other paths, of my musical career. So.
Well, sounds wonderful. So let's hand over to Dom and let him play a couple of tracks, Hopeful and Time to Soar. Very good, very good. More.
Thank you. So time to saw next. Yeah, as I said, it's the last one for the debut album.
Woo! Trying to make an audience of one. Very, very good.
Thank you.
Very good. Well done, Dom. Now, to take you back to the beginning, when did you start playing piano or any instrument?
Yes, so I started quite late actually. I started playing piano in about year 9, so about 2010
Yeah.
at high school, and yeah, I was about 14 and a half. Yeah, it was sort of well, considered very late because most pianists start when they're about 5 to 7 years of age.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was a lot of sort of I guess expectation not to make it, in that sort of sense. But yeah, so I worked quite hard during high school, the 4 years that I had left of high school.
Yeah.
Was lucky enough to make it into the Bachelor of Music program at the University of Melbourne Conservatorium, and then I studied classical, from year 9 all the way through, got into the bachelor degree, and studied, piano at university for 8 years. So, one degree led to another, as it usually does. So, that's sort of, and then, as I said, I was sort of, wanted to create. I knew I sort of wanted to create, but I guess 2020, 2021 has sort of started that journey for me. So
it's quite late to learn the piano and to get as good at it as you obviously have become.
Thank you. Yeah.
When did you realise you had something called talent?
To be honest, I never really looked back. I never really sort of thought of it that way. I honestly just kept practicing, and towards the end of my university studies, I was practicing 6 to 8 hours every day. So it was just a work. But I guess it's just I guess I am where I am mostly because of that. But yeah.
I think many of our listeners may have picked up an instrument at some stage in their career. as a musician. It may have been a very brief career as a musician. I know that I had to go at piano myself when I was 13, 14. I managed to storm through grade 1 and got halfway through grade 2 and decided it wasn't for me, because all those musical notations and trying to work out how to transpose from one key to another, I just couldn't get my head around all that stuff. And the fingers didn't flow in the way I wanted to. So there'll be many people who've played a guitar or an instrument and don't get very far with it. What would your advice be to them when they sort of hit that brick wall and think, I really can't get this working for me? What would you normally say to them?
Oh, I've had a few. I teach piano as well, and I've been teaching since for about 8 or 9 years now. But I generally get these sorts of people coming to me, and my general advice would be to try something new, whether that's a different piece, different song, or even just the way you play. A lot of the times, even just a change in your schedule is also a big thing when you practice, and there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. So.
And do you play any other instrument other than piano?
Well, I do sing, but I have been sort of learning the guitar, in my own spare time. I would like to, get pretty good skills at guitar playing as well. But at the moment I just strum a few chords.
Well, if you can sing, you can play piano. That's a good start, at least, isn't it? Now, when it comes to your musical influences, when you decided that you liked actually playing the piano and it worked in the way that you wanted it to, what sort of music were you listening to in those days? What composers or bands or artists got you going?
I was always obsessed with Mozart, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and I just love the simplicity of his work. And you may or may not have, I guess, heard a little bit of that in my piano compositions today, which I'm still sort of trying to develop my own musical voice. But so that in the sort of classical time when I was practicing that 6 to 8 hours, I was quite obsessed with Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. He composed many compositions for his short time span here on the earth, but then after that, it was sort of when I started playing and singing, it was Billy Joel, Elton John. I remember very sort of quite clearly that I just wanted to sort of do that, what they did. So I gave it a go, and here we are.
Well, with the show that I normally do, we play music from all sorts of genres, and I'm a big prog rock fan, progressive rock. Prog rock, we call it, but progressive rock for others. And many of the great keyboard players in the bands that I loved when I was growing up were classically trained, like Rick Wakeman from Yes, and John Lord from Deep Purple. And Keith Emerson may have not gone through a musical school, but he could play just about anything and was fantastic at it. So great keyboard players have been instrumental in the musical sound of most of the great works of art, from Pink Floyd through to those other bands of the more modern era. And so have you ever got into that sort of style of music where you heard, say, Deep Purple symphony with the rock band and those sort of elements of music mixed all together?
I haven't tried it, but I would like to explore it. I guess it's just a matter of when to put some time into it. But I mean, it is it's very interesting music. I would agree, progressive rock, and it's definitely something I would explore in the future. But I haven't touched on that just yet. But going back to the sort of classical training, I remember very fondly of my first piano teacher, who I studied from for 4 years, and I remember back trying to sort of get into university, and I said I want to do some jazz and some sort of pop back then, and she sort of strongly recommended that I continued with classical to build the technique, and I really remember that, and I thank her to this day for that. So yes,
because a lot of the progressive rock music, it required incredible dexterity on the keyboards, and some of the musicians tended to overplay a little bit. And what really struck me about the Mozart side of it, because I've got a big classical music part of my life as well, is the way he didn't play too many notes, as the film so famously said. The Austrian emperor said, "Too many notes, Mr. Mozart, too many notes."
Yes.
And so knowing what not to play is as important as knowing what to play.
Yes, there's a famous quote from I think it was Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart as well, that he said, "It's not that the beauty doesn't lie in the music; it lies in the silence."
And knowing when not to play, that's what really sets aside the great musicians.
Yes, yep, I do agree. Yeah.
So we'll play a couple more of your tracks now. I've got Water Lilies and Graceful Surrender. Would you like to say a few words about those two songs before I play them?
Yeah, what I forgot to mention is most of my compositions start from or are purely and entirely improvised. So yeah, I thought I'd throw that in there. But that sort of came into my EP of 4 tracks. Both Water Lilies and Graceful Surrender. I think I released that just after summer in end of 2021, maybe started 2000. Yeah, something around there. And yeah, I was sort of around the beach, and I've sort of always had an obsession with water. So they're both sort of water inspired. Yeah.
Well, let's listen to these two beautiful tracks from Dom. Very good.
Hard disk drive for this one because you said you wanted the 192, and I was opening up, trying to get the main file.
Oh, I see. The deck we got here will only play when I insert a file.
Yep.
At 192K.
Yep.
We won't go above that.
Yeah,
Rather
right.
than get MP3 in high resolution, 192 is what they offer us.
Oh, right.
There's an old deck. It's about 40-year-old deck we got here.
Yep. Oh, that's fair enough. Yeah.
And it's not digital yet.
Yep.
We need some money.
Yes.
Some money. And then we get a digital deck, but for the time being.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Love to do a concert now that everything's sort of gone back to normal.
Yeah.
Of all my pieces.
Where would you play?
Oh, that's a good question. I sort of do some accompanying work at St. Mary's for the choir there in Greensboro. So maybe there, they've got a digital piano. I know Rosanna Uniting Church has a grand, so maybe there. Diamond Creek as well, Uniting Church, they've got a grand piano. There's a few venues I'd probably go to, yeah. Just a matter of planning it.
I'm going to play a few announcements after you
No?
of these songs.
Cool.
So we'll go straight into your next track.
Yep. That's my love, right? Yeah, I think so.
Water Lilies, Graceful Surrender, then you'll come back and sing My Love.
Yep, play.
You'll play My
Yep.
Love.
Then United is one with words, and then you follow the road,
Yeah.
Because as I said, I sort of started with
Yeah.
14 instrumentals, and then now starting to songwrite. Trying to see what works.
Whittlesea Community House is committed to providing education, information, community groups and recreation for the township and surrounding areas. Whittlesea Community House is managed by a committee with representatives from local community groups and has 4 main subcommittees: Whittlesea Community House, Whittlesea Community Building Initiative, Whittlesea Area Community Care and Assistance, and Whittlesea Community Recovery Committee. You can find Whittlesea Community House at 92A Church Street, Whittlesea. Office hours are Monday to Thursday, 10am to 3pm. Or you can call 9716 3361. Whittlesea Community House, bringing the community to you.
We got power and the bliss walks up.
Before our superhero can save the world, he has to battle a very powerful foe of his own: muscular dystrophy. Muscular dystrophy is a life-threatening, muscle-wasting disease that destroys young lives, muscle by muscle.
I'm the toughest. I'm the toughest.
Please help in the fight for a cure. Contact Muscular Dystrophy Association now at mda.org.au.
Your local station, 88.6 Plenty Valley FM, is streamed live from www.pvfm.org.au. Now you can hear us anywhere, anytime. So just head to our webpage and click on live streaming. So remember, www.pvfm.org.au. Anywhere, anytime. 88.6 Plenty Valley FM.
And you're listening to When Vinyl Was King with myself, Stephen Cheney, here on a Sunday night with my special guest, Dom La Felita, tonight. Now, thanks, Dom, for your songs and playing so far. We haven't got rid of you yet, though, because you've still got some more to perform, and we still want to have a chat about a few things. Now, as a keyboard player, do you ever get the chance to join in with rock bands or jazz bands or ensembles at all?
Yes, I used to. I haven't ever since sort of, I guess, the last couple of years. But, I used to play with symphonic orchestras. Mostly working with, other soloists, accompanying for exams or even just solo works or solo, concerts. It's more just, I guess, smaller groups, mostly at the moment. It's sort of one of those things. I've tried group work, but I prefer the solo work. If I'm being honest with you, there's no one, there's no one sort of to blame if someone doesn't rock up to rehearsal. It's just me.
And what's the dynamic like if you were playing with a bunch of other musicians who weren't necessarily as trained as you, but could play bass guitar, drums, and then you were trying to play keyboards with them? How would that dynamic work? Have you been able to read music and obviously be totally fluent in all aspects of musicality with people that just give it a bash and make great sounds? How do you blend those together?
It's interesting you ask, because I've been in situations where I've had to just rock up to a rehearsal and sight read, and I've also attended rehearsals where they've had no music and they just said, just improvise over what we're playing. I'm sort of lucky in that respect to be able to play by ear and with sheet. Whereas a lot of musicians that I do sort of come across, they say, oh, you can read sheet music or you can play by ear, really. I can only do one. But I guess all of the training that I've put into it, it's I guess it's sort of paid off.
A lot of the great musicians going back in history, like the boys who formed Led Zeppelin, they were session musicians. Elton John, as you mentioned him, he was a session musician.
Yes.
And Rick Wakeman, he was a session musician. He played on a number of Cat Stevens songs and loads of songs which we don't necessarily know. He was just there in the studio. And of course they had to read music, didn't they?
Yes. Yep.
And so to do that transition from being a sight reading session musician to do your own thing, how do you make that change over?
Oh, I haven't actually thought about it. I guess it just happens. I just give it my all when the opportunity arises. So yeah.
So for my audience, we play a fair bit of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and Greg Lake from Emerson, Lake and Palmer. We're playing a bit of him tonight. I know Craig played him on his earlier show because it was his birthday this week, and Greg Lake in Emerson, Lake and Palmer, one of the most technically proficient bands of all time. But of the three musicians, only one could read music. Keith Emerson.
Yep.
And although Carl Palmer had drum lessons and could read drum notation, he couldn't read sheet music. And Greg just played by ear. Now, if you listen to what they did, particularly their interpretation of Pictures at an Exhibition, which was my first introduction to the actual classical piece, because I was in music lessons in school back in Wales, where I'm from, and the music teacher said, "Boys, you got to listen to this lovely music. And it's Pictures at an Exhibition. What's that, boy? Oh, it's from Mussorgsky. Who's Mussorgsky? Oh, well." And so I played this rocky version of it, and many, many thousands or millions of people around the world in the 70s actually dug out either the original piano transcription of Mussorgsky's pictures or did the Ravel orchestration. And so that was a hybrid. It was a crossover between them. So it's interesting to see where some of the music from the progressive rock era came from, because it didn't come from blues, it didn't come from folk music, it came mainly from classical music with a bit of jazz improvisation on top. So for my audience, they'll be fascinated by actually having a proper musician in the studio. It's lovely to see somebody who can actually play the notes and know that they're in an F sharp minor. Now, you're going to play another song for us live, and this is called My Love. Now, I'm not your love, but you tell me about the song.
Yeah, I guess I wrote it for my fiance, dedicate to her. And again, it came up in the debut album. So I guess I was just inspired one day. Again, just going back to the improvising, I improvised a bit of a theme and sort of reminded me of some of our memories together.
So this is a nice, passionate love song. So do you want to make a dedication to anybody for it? Perhaps it would be your fiance's the best one to dedicate it to.
Yep, this one's for you, Daniela.
Over to you then, Dom.
Thank you.
Very nice. A bit of passion in there.
Thank you.
It's lovely to see a bit of passion in music. That's what it's all about, really.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, I was going to ask you a bit about the keyboard you're playing tonight, and also your thoughts on keyboards for musicians trying to learn the piano or trying to become capable with any sort of keyboard instrument. Because when I was a young lad, we just had these upright manual pianos where if you hit it hard enough, you might get a note out of it. And the idea of a pianissimo was impossible to make it happen because the only way to make a sound was give it a bit of a bash. So things have come a long way. But what's your view of the current state of play? If you were talking to, say, an aspiring keyboard player, say 10, 15 years of age, or a grown-up like me wanting to get back into it, where would you say you should try and start? Where would you look for an instrument?
That's a tough question. I always get this question as well, and I'm never prepared to answer because I then have a few questions myself, including, I guess, the amount of room you have, in your house or studio or whatever space you intend to practice. An upright piano is always best, in my opinion, still, only because of the action and the also the sort of sound is a bit different in relation to how we use the body. It's quite an interesting sort of rabbit hole to go down, you know, in terms of I guess sound, the science of sound. Yeah, it's quite interesting. But if you were going through, you know, a digital piano or looking for a digital piano, I think there's all the brands out there these days are pretty good at what they do. Yeah, Yamaha, Roland, yeah, Kawai. There's you know, I haven't really heard anything terrible about any of those brands. So,
And
yeah.
as far as the actual action is concerned, you meant to have a hammer action, but with a degree of touch sensitivity. How do you work out whether the piano or the keyboard has got that?
Yeah, so that's interesting as well. I guess every piano is sort of built differently, and sort of the touch is always different. And so that's the reason for that, is because also I guess every individual is different. You know, this does have this current Yamaha keyboard that I'm playing on has a hammer action, and it's full touch sensitive, but it's completely different to my upright and grand piano. But it's quite lighter to play, which to be honest I prefer, especially when being out and I have to play for 3 or 4 hours at a market.
Yeah.
So you know, it's sort of less taxing, you know, and it consumes less energy, which is why I can sort of go the distance. The voice is another sort of question.
Yes.
It depends on a lot of things, a lot of factors. But yeah, so but the grand piano that I have in my studio, I am lucky to have a grand piano. But I was given the choice between two of the same model, and this one was tougher to play than the other one. The other one was lighter, but you could it sort of sparkled, the other one. But yeah, I sort of knew I wanted an instrument to practice and sort of develop my technique as best I could, not enjoy it too much. You know, it's sort of a fine line between, I guess, too much indulgence and, you know, not enough sort of discipline. I don't like using that word, but yeah.
And how realistic are the sounds these days of a digital piano?
Very, very realistic, and that's because of these microphones that we have access to today. You know, I'm sure you might know a little bit about sampling, but for those out there who don't know about sampling, they use the microphones to capture every note on a grand piano in a studio, usually in a very high quality studio, or hall, or concert hall, or it's some sort of venue that has really nice, usually nice acoustics. And then they sort of match that up with each key on the digital piano. So once you play a key, it plays that key that sort of comes from that studio on that grand piano. So yeah, technology is great, and honestly, they really do sound very realistic these days. Yeah.
Some of the defining sounds of progressive rock, going back to that genre, was the mellotron. It was instrumental in the sound of Pink Floyd and King Crimson and
Yes.
Moody Blues and Barclay James Harvest and many, many others. And that was done with fairly primitive technology, wasn't it? With the tape loops trying to reproduce the violin sound or a cello sound. Have you had any exposure to playing the mellotron yourself?
Yes, I have. I believe it was at university at one stage. Yeah, that was an interesting experience. Yeah.
So I'm going to be playing some of that later on tonight.
Cool.
Because King Crimson's debut album featured Greg Lake, who was celebrating his birthday, and that had some great guitar with mellotron in the background, and that's what gave it the atmospheric feel.
Yes.
Of course, they couldn't afford a full orchestra, so a mellotron was an easier way to go.
Yes.
So as far as that is concerned that you're playing now, could you give us a few of the samples of the sounds that you can make out of that?
Yeah, I've got strings. I've got some tenor sax. Then you sort of got, I haven't played with these sounds for a long time. I just use this mainly for piano. But then you got a standard drum kit. I've got no idea where the kick is, but yeah. Yeah, so you've got some pretty cool sounds and samples in there. So
And the organ sound as well? You've got church organ and ordinary organ?
I would, yeah. It's I think somewhere about 21, maybe. Let's have a look.
You've got 100 sounds on that, have you?
I've got over 500, which I've never used. But so this is a cool organ, apparently. So yeah, you've got a very very wide range of sounds.
So it's much more fun than the old digital pianos of even 10 years ago. You got much more control of the sound quality.
Interesting you say that because this is about 10 years old.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but maybe about 15, 20 years.
But
yeah.
I would say people are not in the studio apart from me, but the keyboard you're playing is quite a big one. I suspect it cost more than a few $100s in the local Kmart.
Yes, yep.
So therefore what you had 10 years ago is probably comparable to what the average person can afford for, say, $1,000 or $2,000 these days.
Yep, yeah.
So it's great to see a proper musician playing things in front of us. Now, I'm going to play now one of yours called United. And do you want to tell me about United before I play it?
Yeah, so United was my second single that I released with Words. It's sort of I guess I was mostly inspired at this stage by a bit of John Lennon with Imagine. I just went through a phase where I was listening to many covers and also his original recordings and live performances, thanks to technology again these days. And I guess United is about, well, being united and coming together as one. I know it's that idea is sort of coming further and further away a little bit these days, but so I hope everybody enjoys.
Good. So I'm playing it now, United by Dom.
Almost sounds like a mellotron.
I've been silent, but I still care. Don't want to entertain the hate and negativity, but we've been silent far too long. This will be the start of another chapter in our history. Enough is enough, why do people care?
You're in Tim Minchin territory with this. A little bit.
Little bit, yeah.
You can play piano properly, can't you?
Yeah, he's pretty good.
We all
Yeah.
have the same
Yeah.
blood
I've done
in
it.
our
I've done a
veins.
Tim Minchin
Step
show.
down
Sort of half
on
Tim Minchin on the Twitch stream. So yeah, still learning with like it's one of those things that's so much to do with producing music because I write, record, mix, try to master. So yeah, it's a lot to it.
So when this one finishes, I'd like to have a quick chat to you about your recording process.
Yep. All right. Cool.
You know, because all the musicians do it differently. The last
Yes.
ones came in, they all recorded files and then sent off to France, get it bolted together to create an album.
All right.
So they never met each other. You know, there's a Brazilian guitarist and a Mill Park South Morang man playing guitar mixed in France.
Jeez. Okay. Interesting. It's pretty cool.
Blood in our veins. Step down and from the pedestal. Let's just come together. No matter what color or race or what gender, we should be united on all fronts. No matter where you're from, no matter who you are, we are.
You're at South Morang Market next week?
Yes, yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah, I'll be there too.
If I get some good weather.
I know.
Is that the last one or one more? So
I'll play one more.
that's the last one. Now the suffering one.
No, they got one December, but yeah, they've got I think a community choir doing carols instead, which is fair enough.
Which of the choir, do you know?
Not sure. She just said community choir, I think. Yeah, that's right. All about the community. Which is good.
No matter where you're from, no matter who you are, we are. No matter what color or race or what gender, we should be united on all fronts. No matter where you're from, no matter who you are.
And you're listening to When Vinyl Was King with Stephen Cheney on 88.6 Plenty Valley FM. And I've got my special guest in the studio, Dom La Felita. So very nice, Dom. Now, we've got one more live performance from you to come. But before you go and play Follow the Road, just want to have a quick chat to you about how you actually set about the recording of your music. Because everybody's got technology at home with iPads and computers. But how to do it properly? How do you do it?
Yeah, so it really depends on the song. If I'm being honest, my first sort of single I wrote and released again with words was sort of improvised, recorded with the laptop, and then sort of I built it up with some strings. I'm a sort of a little bit of a sucker for piano and strings, and so then I sort of wrote words to that. But the United track that was just played, I sort of wrote words and then I sort of put a chord progression together, and then I took it to the laptop. So it's very, very flexible. I guess that's sort of the way that I work best. As we were sort of discussing earlier, you know, me going to rehearsals and having to play by ear or sort of playing by sheet music. I guess just being flexible. It really brings around sort of a lot of ideas that way as well. You know, so sometimes I'll find myself in sort of that writer's block, which I'm sure a lot of writers can agree with. And so I'll just improvise something on the keyboard and maybe something will come up. I'll sort of get a funky bass line or even improvise on my laptop or iPad, as you said. I sort of sometimes use the iPad and then something will come up with that, or a drum beat or something, and then, just get a feel for it. So
Now, before we let you go, you've got one more song to play, but can you tell us where we can find you?
Yeah, well, I'm on a lot of social medias, Instagram, TikTok, even website, domlafelita.com.au. I also sell some CDs of my instrumentals at the moment, and
For those who are interested, on my Facebook page, When Vinyl Was King, I've put a link into Dom's website. So anybody wants to go and have a listen to what he does, then go there. And also, this show will be on the PVFM streaming. After the show, you'll be able to go and listen to us in the Listen Again function. And I'll post that on my Facebook page tomorrow. So you'll be able to listen on. But also, you got a bit of your own website, haven't you?
Yes. So I've got my own website with a little bit about me. And my own music that's also showcased there. My links to my YouTube channel, live performances, and yes, I sort of update my schedule every month because it does change month to month. Currently just doing a lot of markets on the weekends, but we'll be getting into sort of cafes and restaurants.
Now, next Saturday morning, you and I are both going to be at the South Morang Farmers and Makers Market, aren't we?
Yes, looking forward to that one. Hopefully the weather provides.
Weather permitting. Weather permitting indeed. And you also mentioned earlier that you're a music teacher. So if somebody wants to learn how to play the keyboard from a person who can actually play it, how do they get in touch with you?
Yep, just on my website. I've got a contact, sort of contact form as most websites do these days. And you feel free to, if you live in sort of around this area, feel free to get in touch.
So if you're a grade 1 pianist in the making, or you've got a grade 6 already done, you want to get to the next level, then come and contact you.
Yep, I've taught all levels and still teach all levels. I was quite fortunate to help a student of mine get into the Conservatorium of Music last year. So he was admitted to the Bachelor of Music degree after completing his grade 8 certificate with me the year before. So I was quite fortunate to be able to teach at such a level.
Well, it's been great having you on the show tonight, Dom, and listening to your musical journey and your influences and the skills that you've got and the things you can contribute to the community. And that's what Community Radio is about. I think bringing people on like yourself. You know, I'm not always playing hard rock music. I do play a whole diverse range of stuff on the show. And tonight we've had a local musician who creates and plays and really does some beautiful stuff. Now, you're going to take us out with Follow the Road. What's the story on this one?
This one's, I guess, just a good road trip song. I think all of us sort of in the last, especially few years, have sort of, I guess, felt the need to, I guess, get away on a holiday or just sort of, spend some time just chilling out And so, yeah, this one's definitely just about sort of getting away from society. It's a little bit childish and a little bit fun, a little bit upbeat. So,
take it away. And thank you very much, Dom, for coming in tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Ever just want to run away? I know what you are gonna say. You're a little scared, and that's okay. We can leave now any day, whenever you may feel up to eat. We can pack our bags and we can do this. Pack the car with some groceries and say goodbye to our families and just follow the road. Why don't we follow the road? Imagining a window down, trees and farmland all around. No big concrete jungle, dampness and cold, the fresh air and nothing but your warmth when friends call to see where we are. We'll say just follow the road with your car and you may just find us. But if not, enjoy the freedom and just follow the road. Why don't we follow the road? Let's just follow the road. Why don't we follow the road? We may just change our mind tomorrow, or maybe it'll be never ending. How will we know unless we go? What do you say? Let's go with the flow and just follow the road. Why don't we follow the roads? Let's just follow the road. Why don't we follow the road? We'll follow the road. We'll follow the road. We'll follow the road. Why don't we follow the road? We'll follow the road. Follow the road.
Very good, very good. Many, many thanks. My special guest tonight, Dom LaFelita. And see you at South Morang Farmers and Makers Market, whatever it's called, on Saturday morning.
Yep, see you then.
See you then.
Thank you very much.
And thanks for coming in. Play a few trailers and then we'll be back with some music.
Plenty Valley FM.